right?
Lesson 10. Yep.
Okay. The Merriam-Webster defines religion as a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. There is a huge difference between religion and spiritual connection. When it comes to religion, all too often people get wrapped up on the do's and don'ts instead of the relationship with God, under which everything is built. Fasting is a perfect example. There is a time, a place, a way, and a purpose for fasting. It's biblical and spiritual. It's a wonderful time of cleansing and reflection. However, listen to the Lord.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. So fasting is a huge thing. It's actually heard more about fasting in the last 5 years than I have in my entire life. So here's the deal with fasting. Fasting is fabulous. It's wonderful. It's cleansing. It can get you closer to the Lord. It can provide revelation. However, if there's a human being telling you to do that and the Lord hasn't backed it up, then all you're doing is honoring the human being. When you have a supernatural God telling you to do something such as a fast, then you're going to get supernatural results. But if you have a human being operating out of their own thoughts, feelings, and ideas, then you're going to get human results. So when you get into a church that says, okay, we're going to do a corporate fast, unless the Lord tells you to fast, you're not probably going to get out of it what you're hoping to get out of it, because God is telling us what we're to do and when we're to do it. And if we don't do the human aspect of things, then we're not going to feel as fulfilled as we might be hoping for. So a lot of people coming out of a fast will feel like they're a failure, or they couldn't finish it, or they didn't get the revelation, or they didn't get the clarity, or they found themselves not feeling well through it, so they start worrying about their own, journey with the Lord. But the truth is, if there is no supernatural guidance, if God hasn't said, I want you to fast, then what are we honoring?
Right.
We're honoring a human being. I actually have personal experience in this. I had a pastor and his wife tell me that we're doing a corporate fast, and I said, you can do a corporate fast, I'm not going to participate. They tried to condemn me because I wouldn't participate. But I held true to my belief system, and I guarantee you after they had their fast, they didn't reveal anything. They had nothing new. They had nothing coming out of it, and they wanted to know why. And I said, because God wasn't part of it. You guys decided you had an agenda and you fulfilled it. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. But it didn't reveal anything, and nothing came of it because it wasn't of God.
But what about Good Friday? I feel that fasting on Good Friday, to me, I want to do it because of what the Lord did for me.
That is totally different because you want to do it. When you are feeling moved to do something and you're feeling like you're convicted to do something, or you're feeling like you want to honor or respect the Lord by sacrificing something, that is honorable and that is upright and that is what we're supposed to do. But if I were to say to you, Judy, I don't want you to eat fish on Fridays, that isn't doing anything but honoring me. When you choose not to have fish on Fridays because you want to honor him, you are doing that from the heart to honor the Father. That is praiseworthy, that is beautiful, and that is the way it's supposed to be. So either the Lord tells you to do it, or you feel the unction, or you feel driven to do it, and when that happens, now all of a sudden, you're doing something beautiful. So, does that answer your question, Judy?
Yes, I think it does.
Okay. So, because you're doing it from your heart and from a place of honor and respect. You're not doing it out of obedience to another person. You're doing it because you love, honor, respect the Lord, and you want to show it.
Right. That's good.
Was that accurate?
That is accurate.
Like that.
That's completely different than somebody making you do it.
Well, nobody can make you do anything.
Well, actually, in the church setting, so here's what I have experienced and I have witnessed. In the churches, when the person who was doing the corporate fast said that we need to do this, and I said no, they were telling me that I could not return to that church unless I participated in their fast. So there are some people that are so attached. Yeah, there's some people that are so attached to their church that they would take that as a shunning. They would take that as a rejection. If they're already dealing with rejection issues, then a lot of people will go along with that fast just because they don't want to lose their church family. So in some ways, the church can make you do things if you feel that you are subordinate to the church and you're going to lose more than you would if you just do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess. It answers some questions why some people don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one individual that he did the fast, and he was pressured into it, and he was told that this is something that was expected of him, and he ended up hospitalized with some sort of a sugar issue. Nope, totally different church. And I talked to him. He said, "What went wrong?" And I said, "Well, did God order it?" And he says, "No." I said, "Well, there you go. If God didn't order it, and you were just following that church, then you're going to get those church results, which nobody knows our bodies but the Father. Our pastors, our parishes, our elders, our whatever, they do not know our bodies, but our Father does. So when somebody says to me, you need to do a 21-day fast, my response is, did you talk to my Father? Because I'm a diabetic. I can't do that. And then you get the responses of, well, God will cover you and he'll protect you. Absolutely. Except if I'm choosing to starve myself because somebody told me to, that's on me. That's not on God.
Exactly.
If the Lord tells me to go 21 days without eating, then I promise you I will be sustained, I will be energetic, I will be cared for, I will be loved, I will be looked over. I'm going to have everything I need because he told me to do it. He doesn't tell us to do something and not give us the equipment to do it.
Right, okay. Yeah.
But people tell us to do things that we're not equipped to do. Does that make sense, Judy?
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So, okay, what's the next one?
Okay, all right. Disciples that are new in the walk with God are often guided by those who are in a position of authority. It is not unusual for that person to suggest a corporate fast. However, just because it's not unusual doesn't mean it's God instruction for that time, date, group, or season. Your relationship with the Lord is personal, and only He knows what the best is for you, your clarity or your relationship. Follow the Father and not the people. Religion can take you away from the very thing that the church was designed to do. Close the gap between us as humans and God the Father. What do I mean by this? The Lord gave us the rules by which to eat to keep us healthy and whole, so we can keep the body nourished and strong to fulfill God's purpose here on earth. God gave us guidelines on the Sabbath and how the Sabbath is supposed to serve us, not us serving the Sabbath. So when the Pharisees were foolish enough to complain about the disciples picking grain on the Sabbath, Jesus was quick to point out their foolishness. They were so willing to follow rules and regulations that they forgot the principle behind it.
Right.
That's
So we'll
good.
stop there for a
That's
quick
good.
moment.
Okay.
So when we get so stuck on the religious dogmas, the expectations and the rules of the church, when the Lord put together the church, we are the church. He gave us everything we need for us to be the strongest, the healthiest, and for us to fulfill our purpose on this earth. We're here for a reason and purpose. He's going to make sure that we have what we need. The laws that are associated with the Ten Commandments, as well as I forgot how many laws that Judaism has, but every one of them is designed either to bring us closer to God, to keep us healthier, to keep us on our path that reflects the character and integrity of the Lord. There's not one law that's written that doesn't do that, unless it's the man-made laws associated with the rabbinic laws. Those came afterwards. Those were added. The rabbinic laws were added. So when the Pharisees were critical because of them taking grain up on the Sabbath for food and for nourishment, Jesus was the first one to say, whoa, wait. Do you realize that the Sabbath is supposed to work for you? You're not supposed to work for the Sabbath. The Sabbath is set aside for us. The Sabbath is set aside for us to have an opportunity to get with the Lord, to sit down with Him, to rest. The Lord rested. So the Sabbath is supposed to work in our favor. We are not enslaved to the Sabbath. And Jesus was the first one to say, are you kidding me? Do you not see why this was put together? This was put together for you, and now you're criticizing because they're doing something that they need to sustain their own lives? What's wrong with you? And you want to pull religion out and a law out to say this is why you can't do this? There's supposed to be a common sense factor associated with these laws and rules and regs so that we can know how to best care for ourselves and to keep us united with the Father and not divided from the Father. When we recognize that the Sabbath is for us and is for us to get closer to Him, we're remembering Him. We're recognizing His part in our lives. So I'm not going to go hungry because of Sabbath. And He didn't say go hungry every Sabbath. He never said, I want you to starve yourself every Sabbath. Don't go pick any grain. Don't do it. No. He wants us to eat. For 2 years, I didn't eat pork. I know it sounds like crazy because I like my food. But for 2 years, He laid on me. It's a personal relationship with the Father not to eat pork for 2 years, which I found out was a real struggle because I didn't realize how much I was eating. But I had not realized how much pork I was eating. So whenever I agreed to it, I thought, okay, that wouldn't be a big deal. I'll just give up my bacon and we'll be good. So, but what was happening, even though the Lord released me from that after 2 long years, was every time I sat down at a meal, not realizing just how much pork I was eating, I had to go to the Father every single time I ordered, every single time I had a meal with somebody else, every time I cooked a meal, every time I prepared a grocery list. It was an opportunity for me to say, okay, Father, what do you want me to do today? Is this something I can do? It brought me closer to Him in my food. Now, ultimately, He released me and said, go do what you got to do. But for 2 years, I didn't realize just how intimately we are all tied to food. Yeah. You know? And so when He put a restriction on my food, He actually gave me a direct a reason for me to connect with Him even more throughout the course of the day. So that religious understanding of why we don't eat pork actually brought me closer to Him and gave me an ability to grow from that. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Why was it in the olden days why they couldn't eat pork? I know
Unclean.
why it did for you.
Unclean. They were considered unclean. So it was birds of the air, cloven hooves, and bottom feeders. Bottom feeders are the fish because they eat their own feces. Birds of the air were typically the predators' dead meat. So they ate things that were they were eating whatever was already dead. And in Judaism, there was this whole thing where you don't touch anything dead, you're not around anything dead, you know.
Okay.
And then the pigs were considered unclean. And if you remember, when the demons were in the animals, they were in the pigs.
They were in the pigs.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
they
then
got on those swans.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And pork actually carries more parasites than many other meat.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Okay.
yeah. But now with their cooking practices, it's all taken care of because everything is processed anyway.
Yeah, but they were full of worms.
They were.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay. So, okay, got it.
All right.
Can I read this?
If you don't mind.
Okay. Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as His disciples walked along, they began to pick some heads of grain. The Pharisees said to Him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He answered, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful and only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath."
Amen.
In other words, the day of rest is to serve and for the benefit of the people. The people are not slave to the day of rest. Understanding the character of God and the principles and purpose of the teachings of Jesus help to keep us from falling into the religion trap and falling prey to religious programming. I have witnessed and heard of many ministers or pastors who stop a woman from praying for a man, even when there are immediate results present, simply because it was a woman praying for a man. Jesus not only ministered to women, but He ministered to them alone. Remember the woman at the well? She was alone and a Samaritan. That could never have happened in a church bound by a religious spirit. Yet it occurs every day. The danger in that religious spirit is that it often hinders spiritual growth on the part of the person seeking and the person who is bound by these rules. You must seek God for instruction. God will teach each of us who, when, and how we are to walk with someone if we just listen.
I have been in, and I understand why this portion of it has to happen, but I reject it anyway. When a pastor's in an office and there's a woman that needs prayer, and there's no other women to come in and witness it, yeah, I understand it's to protect everybody involved. But when the Lord is moving, and you got a woman who came in who is just trying to get off of drugs. This is a woman. She was trying to get off of drugs. She was on heroin. She had come into church that day, and it was after church. She didn't know the hours because she didn't go to that church. She went in to find the pastor. She was asking for prayer to get off of drugs. But nobody was there but the pastor. He turned her away because there was not a woman to witness it. That's a load of crap. Okay. Because that woman could have had a dialogue with a man that would have changed her life forever. Mm-hmm. And now we'll never know. We'll never know. The woman never came back. Because not only did she not get the prayer that she was seeking so badly, but then she was rejected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Betrayed.
Mm-hmm. And set outside of the church walls because she did not have there was no conformancy, and the legalism and the religion was against her. Yeah. That is so jacked up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And yet it's a part of the regular events of what we deal with on the religious side of the churches. Okay.
Okay, a recent example of religious programming is something that occurred with a man who had a deformed arm. The programming was, if something doesn't look acceptable to you, pray it into acceptability. This man was standing in a small group talking about mundane things when a woman turned to this man and, without asking, laid hands on this man's arm, praying for the arm to grow out and be normal. That man was not at all rude, but he explained to the woman that while she saw it as a defect, he saw it as just how he was made. He never saw it as a problem, but because it didn't fit her definition of normal, nor did she consider that he might be happy as he is, she took it upon herself to heal him from something he did not want or feel he needed healing from.
Right, so I'm going to stop you there. Okay. So here's the thing. So if I'm looking at you, Maria, if I'm looking at you, Lisa, and I feel that you guys have a deficit, but you don't feel you have a deficit, who am I to pray what I want on you? Who am I to say, okay, Maria, I think you need to have better eyesight. You might be great with your eyesight. You might say, this is a part of my life and I'm embracing it, but I'm saying, I want you to have perfect eyesight. That may not be your wish, but it's my wish over you. How dare I, in my religious thinking, think it's okay for me to impose my desires for your eyesight over your body and your desires for your body in this season of your journey? If somebody's in a wheelchair, and we deal with these here, or you guys deal with these here, not me, with these people here on a regular basis, and they have deficits, they have issues, they have mental issues, they have emotional issues, they have physical issues, they have all these things. Yeah. Do we want them healed? Yeah, absolutely. But some of them are happier than the people who have two legs that work and have fully functioning brains.
Hey, Trish, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When the Father tells you to pray over somebody, do you always ask that person if you can pray over him?
If I am fully aware of what's going on, yes. There is a woman who, and I'll tell this quick story, kind of explain it a little bit further. There was a woman, I was in an event setting, and she came in with another woman, and I didn't know either one of them. One woman, she had white hair, one of them had dark hair. The one who had the light hair asked for prayer. So we got up, and I walked over to pray for this woman who I did not know. They came in late, so there was no introductions. And as soon as I started walking to the woman with white hair to pray for her as she requested, my hands were moved automatically without my understanding to the woman with dark hair. And I put my hands on her abdomen and she was healed from lupus. And now that's been 4 years.
Wow.
So my intention was to go to the woman with white hair to do exactly as she requested. but my hands moved in a direction that I had not intended, and a prayer came out of my mouth that I did not intend for a woman that I did not know, and I had no idea that she had ailments. The reason why she came in so late is because she didn't want to be there. She was having back pain from lupus. Her protein levels were too high. She was having kidney issues, and she had she had a car, and the woman with white hair did not have a car and wanted to come for prayer. After I prayed for her, while I was praying for her, she started crying, and I thought, okay, I didn't ask permission. I've done something wrong, but I had to finish the prayer because the prayer was coming out of me. And afterwards, she was crying. I mean, not just a little tear here and there. I mean, she was boo-hooing.
Yeah.
And so I just went, well, I insulted her, and I just walked away because there was so much emotion that was happening at the time. 2 years later, I get a phone call, and she said, hi, do you remember me? And I said, no. And she says, well, I was sitting in this chair, and she named the event, and I said, oh, yeah, I remember that. And before I could even say I'm sorry, she said that when she walked out of that house, because that was the end of the event, when she walked out of that house, she had no pain. Her back didn't hurt, her kidneys didn't hurt, and she went home feeling fine. She felt very light. She went to her doctor, and her protein levels are back down to normal. Her back pain has never returned. Her kidney function is back to normal. She has to this day, she has no sign of lupus. I have this in writing from her through her own testimony, so that I can utilize this in a book at some point. But she gave me permission to tell her story because it's been years now. It's been, I want to say 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And she still has the diagnosis of lupus and none of the effects of it. None. So if I am fully aware, then yes, I ask permission. But in circumstances like that, I just went with where the Lord was telling me to go, and there was a supernatural event that occurred.
I gotcha.
Make sense?
But basically, you always ask. Right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
If it's something supernatural going on, then you don't want to quench the spirit. But I always had, even when I'm praying for a person, I put my hand on their shoulder. I ask, can I put my hand on your shoulder?